Okay. So you all know this, but what I'm going to do is go through an overview of the early childhood action plan that we just launched at the end of October. You all have been instrumental in feeding information and input into this plan. But you haven't seen this overview that we've been presenting in the what Carrie and I like to call the roadshow. Carrie Randolph is our executive director, and she'll be joining us here in just a second. My colleague is Brandon Hubbard Heights. He's focused on early literacy, K-12 literacy, and student strategies, and he also is sick at home today. So, but we are a mighty team of 3. Most of you all know I used to be a team of 1, so we have tripled in size in the last year. We're super excited to be able to support organizations like yourselves coming together to collaborate. So I just found this quote from NACI online, and I thought it was a great way to kick off the overview presentation, that all children have the right to equitable learning opportunities that help them achieve their full potential as engaged learners and valued members of society. And I think that really speaks to the fact that being an engaged citizen starts at birth, fostering that in a child. So I'm going to move this so that you all can see better. Well, okay. So what is Chattanooga 2.0? It's a cross-sector organization and partnership across Chattanooga and Hamilton County, representing nonprofit businesses, public and educational institutions. From the early childhood standpoint, we have Early Matters, which is the action team of early childhood stakeholders, but we have the 2-generational representation. You've got your workforce talent pipeline of teacher prep, and then you have people who are actually working with children day to day. So we try to be the backbone organization that brings other organizations together to break down silos of communication for Early Matters purposes. If there is a project happening in Hamilton County related to early childhood, then these partners likely know about it and are going to have some input and helpful connections to resources to execute that. But doing together, we're doing what no one entity can do alone, which is ensuring the success of every childhood from birth to career. So Chattanooga, again, y'all forgive me with the technical, okay, from birth to career. So we've got 3 basic buckets that the 3 of us on the Chattanooga 2.0 backbone team are working on. You've got early childhood from birth to age 8, and that's kindergarten readiness and 3rd grade reading and math proficiency. These are the 5 goals of Chattanooga 2.0. Kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade reading and math, college and career ready graduates, post-secondary attainment, and a thriving wage for young adults. Again, this is a 2-generational work that we're focused on. So my bucket, or domain, is the early childhood birth to age 8. Brandon is focused on that 3rd grade reading and math proficiency and out of school time, focusing on literacy. And then Carrie, who will be here momentarily, is doing thriving wage career pathways and working on making sure that students have access to post-secondary opportunities and can then earn a wage that pays their bills at the end of the day. So the goals of Chattanooga 2.0 are, does anyone know how to make this bar go away? So I stopped fighting with it.
Hide the floating in the meeting rules. Oh.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Elle. So the goals of Chattanooga 2.0, you all have seen this in the plan that we launched at the beginning of 2021, is kindergarten readiness, as I said, those 5 areas, trying to get those up to 80% in Hamilton County. But the first part of that, and why everyone here comes together every other month and smaller meetings in between, is to create a coordinated and aligned early childhood system. There is no one coordinating entity like the school district for early childhood. Each individual childcare is its own small business. They have no one to advocate for them, no one to help with recruitment and retention, no one to speak up and say, hey, I'm running on a 1% profit margin. Can you please help me make ends meet and pay my teachers enough that they can actually pay their own bills at the end of the day, and we can have high quality teachers rearing the next generation of leaders in Hamilton County. No. Okay, sorry guys. There we go. So there are three basic domains for early childhood. You've got the physical health, mental health, and nutrition. And then you've got early learning and development, family leadership and support. And we recently added this dotted line on the bottom following the national movement to add this circle because early intervention is really important. So identifying children with developmental delays early, getting them the appropriate assessment and services that they need so that they can get on a path to some intervention before they even start kindergarten so that they are that much more successful. So Early Matters serves to coordinate and align this early childhood system, bringing together the health partners, the nurse family partnerships, the evidence-based home visitation, the advocacy groups, the teacher prep pipeline, the people who actually serve young children and their families throughout the day. And our vision is for every child in Hamilton County to be raised in the best place in the nation for a child to be born and raised. In terms of the Bright Start plan, so Chattanooga 2.0 was inducted to a statewide network of communities, 6 communities who are creating early care and education plans across Tennessee in those 3 different domains. And we're one of the initial 6, which is why we launched that plan at the end of October. And it focuses on birth to 8. And I thought this was a really great quote that encompasses why we're focusing on all 3 of those domains and not just learning, because we know that 80% of a student's time is spent outside of the school building. And similarly, in early childhood, all 3 of those domains make up a child's readiness for school. So this quote, I'm going to read it. Actually, I'm going to be quiet and let you read it. Can you all read it from there? Okay. I think this just really hits home the fact that there needs to be an aligned, coordinated response for children and all that they bring to the classroom when they get to kindergarten. So Tennesseans for Quality Early Education is who created the Bright Start Tennessee Network, and they took the model from the North Carolina Pathway to Grade Level Reading. And they created this graphic which shows those 3 domains that together their hypothesis will impact 3rd grade reading and math proficiency. So their growth goal, it's a 3-year plan that the 6 communities are working on. Together, the 6 communities in the Bright Start Tennessee Network make up 50% of the population of Tennessee. And they include 2 multi-county rural areas, then Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, and Knoxville are all creating plans. Chattanooga Hamilton County is the first community that launched their plan. We had a fantastic steering committee who helped guide the work, guide focus groups and stakeholder engagement to inform this plan that we launched at the end of October. And when we looked at the data, no matter which way you cut it, it was our students and children and families who are economically disadvantaged who fall behind and stay the farthest behind of all the subgroups. And so they are the target for these strategies that we've chosen for this plan. In addition to the statewide network goal, we identified some sub goals that we want to track in Hamilton County to make sure that we are, that the strategies we're doing are making a difference. So EPSD screenings by age 3, which is that well check. If you've got a baby, making sure they get to all of their appointments, and that way they're more likely to be screened for something that requires early identification, early intervention services. Kindergarten readiness is making sure that I know that there's some, it's not up to a child to be kindergarten ready. It's up to us as a society to equip children with the skills necessary to be ready to be successful in kindergarten. And that's both foundational literacy and math skills and social emotional skills that they need in the classroom. And then 3rd grade reading and math. Those are the numbers that we if successful, it will be in 3 years, improving an additional 60 students each year testing proficient. So we did a lot of surveys, focus groups, stakeholder engagement. You all know you were in a lot of them. But some of the key data points to highlight for you, there is a one pager that you have, and I think if I haven't emailed it out to the group, let me know, those of you online. But in it, there's a data page insert, which highlights a lot of these data infographics that were in the plan. But I'm going to share a couple of them with you now. So the first one that I think gets a lot of people's attention because they can relate to it is that children in Hamilton County are not getting enough sleep from birth all the way up to age 18, and maybe all of the adults in Hamilton County too, not getting enough sleep. But the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that children receive 11 to 14 hours of sleep per day for this age group of 0 to 5. And in a survey we did of families this spring, that was normed the demographics and socioeconomic status of Hamilton County residents, 47% of families reported that their young children were receiving less than 9 hours of sleep per day. And if you have ever met a child or you work in childcare, you know that can lead to a cranky kid. It helps with cognitive development, so it has a really big impact. So that's something that we're going to be looking into to figure out why are children not getting enough sleep in Hamilton County.
Jennifer, I'm gonna interrupt for a second. Leslie Morris just asked me to ask you if you can reshare your screen, because I guess
yeah.
it's not.
Thank you all for listening and just trusting what I was saying.
Leslie is the.
Does anybody
Yeah.
have to insert it's actually in this one. No, okay.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay. Okay, everybody online, someone just feel free to shout if you can't hear, or you can't see.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is that 44% of children in Hamilton County under the age of 5 live in low-income households, which is a lot. Almost half of the little children in Hamilton County live in low-income households. They're not getting enough sleep, and childcare is really expensive. For the almost 70% of the children under the age of 6 in Hamilton County, their parents are in the workforce. So all available parents are in the workforce, which means that they need quality, reliable childcare in order to show up at work. And we don't have that many seats in Hamilton County. We don't have enough childcare seats, and childcare is really expensive for those families too. So it costs almost the same as 4-year college tuition to go to send a child to childcare each year. I know this, I have 2 children in childcare. It costs as much as 4 years of college tuition to send kids to childcare every year. And as I said, of the 23,983 children under the age of 6, they have all parents in the workforce. You all know this, but 90% of brain development happens before age 5. So what we're doing with children before they get to kindergarten really has a great impact on how they're going to perform once they start K-12 school. So in the plan, we did a lot of listening, and what we found is in order to better serve children in those 3 domains, we have to increase access to quality services, increase the capacity of caregivers and service providers, and increase communication between all of the early childhood stakeholders. Capacity means making sure that caregivers have the resources that they need and want and are asking for to raise their children. And for service providers, it means giving them, from a policy standpoint, it could be making sure that the insurance reimburses the actual cost of care for healthcare providers so that they can do an autism diagnostic on a child. And they can hire someone of quality to get their 3-year waiting list down, as an example. Or making sure that you can pay your childcare teachers adequately so that you have enough staff, because there's a childcare staffing crisis and across the country right now. This is what kicked me out earlier. Okay, and then communication. I think everybody can agree, if you've ever worked in an organization anywhere, that communication is the downfall and often a complaint of why people have a hard time or are unsatisfied. I think that between businesses, as organizations, we can do a better job of communicating with one another, but then as organizations, we can do a better job of communicating what resources are available for families. So, and just a quick note there that access is cost, hours, location, transportation, language, availability, and knowing that the services exist. We have had an ACEs working group. ACEs are adverse childhood experiences, and especially for our young children, but also throughout high school, we were hearing from our children's cabinet recently that what children crave, what they're asking for, and what the evidence says that they need to mitigate those adverse early childhood experiences is a relationship with a stable and committed, supported caregiver or adult. For your economically disadvantaged children, one of the best things for them is to be in a high quality childcare setting where they have a consistent routine before they get to kindergarten. So you all have a copy of these strategies, the full list, but just to highlight some of them for you. So in the health domain, you've got the whole domain picture on the back of your handout there, but in the health domain, some of the things that we have identified in this early childhood action plan are scaling evidence-based home visitation programs like Nurse Family Partnership, Betsy here, because 28% of the low-income families who responded to our survey were not aware of local pregnancy or postpartum or home visitation services. You know, a wise person that I know says that the fourth trimester is real for everyone. You know, that after your baby is born, you're just kind of all those hormones you're at, you just need help, especially if you don't have that village. And evidence-based home visitation is really important, especially for families who don't have that village, and can teach mother-baby attachment, which Betsy alluded to, which I have learned. I learned so much from all the experts in the room, but Betsy shared that is the core foundation to literacy and numeracy is having that mother-baby attachment. Another is scaling school-based health clinics. So making sure that students have access to healthcare in the school. 10% of families listed cost as a barrier to accessing healthcare. And then nutrition, sleep, and mental health needs assessment. So as we said, children aren't getting enough sleep, and we have an working group that's going to talk about the needs assessments that they're working on shortly. For early learning, one of the strategies we put in the plan is a microcenter network. Katie talked about this. She didn't call it this, but Chambliss Center is the first organization to do what's called a microcenter, which is using a family group home license in a business. And the business in this case is Hamilton County Schools. And so business can use it as a recruitment and retention tactic because their teachers can come back to work earlier. They can be with their child during the day, and they don't lose valuable staff because they have childcare on site. As we said, there aren't enough childcare seats across all of Hamilton County, from Saudi to East Ridge to downtown Chattanooga. There are childcare deserts all over the county, and it's not cost effective to start your own childcare in a business. Lots of people ask. Donna, Katie, everybody knows that businesses are constantly saying, well, I'll just open a childcare in my business. Well, there's so many licensing regulations. You basically have to become a childcare in order to do that. And what the microcenter networks do is allow one, Chambliss in this case, to be the hub, take care of the licensing and the training and all of that for the teachers. And the teachers just run basically an offsite remote classroom for up to 12 children in that space. You know, I had a church. Lots of churches are interested in this. So for the next model, once we get seed funding from the organization who said that they would do that, so we're just waiting on that to come through. But looking to do I'm not going to say that organization, but they're hoping to do a statewide network of micro centers across the state because people think that it's going to be the next thing in childcare. So excited for places like businesses in childcare deserts or churches. I had a Saudi Daisy pastor call me last week and say, I want to open up a church in my childcare or in my childcare in my church. I was like, wait, not the first one. I want to open up a childcare in my church. I've got lots of space. And I was like, well, because he thought there was a lot of money in childcare. I said, oh, sir, there is not. There is, unless there's something that I don't know from all the Early Matters partners. So I referred them to the CCR&R New Business Academy and said I did an e-introduction to them. So one of the benefits of this coalition is that when people get word of like, hey, I have this grand idea, we can say quickly, let's connect you to the people who know the things and can get you the resources that you need to help children and families. The other one, I won't talk about it long because Curtis is going to talk about it in her part, the Quality Matters Fund for teacher recruitment and retention for childcare. The another one is kindergarten transition and alignment. So working on right now, we do not have a community-wide definition of kindergarten readiness. So we're about to have a meeting of lots of partners, Becky, others, to define what does it mean to be ready for kindergarten, and then what does that transition process look like if you're coming from homeschool, if you're coming from childcare, if you're coming from Hamilton County Schools pre-K into the kindergarten experience, because it's different. It's not the same as your small classroom. I have a son in pre-K, so I'm really living that right now. How are they going to adjust? I'm not emotional at all. So let's see, and then also the funding stream analysis. So right now, there is no early childhood system in the United States that pays childcare teachers enough and also is affordable for families. So what we're doing as a part of this plan, Chattanooga 2.0 has taken on a funding stream analysis where we say, what is the ideal early childhood system for childcare cost? What money is already flowing in, and what can we do creatively as a community to make that up? Because there's so many families who are on things like a benefits cliff, where if they got a $1 raise at their job, then they would all of a sudden have to pay $11,000 in childcare. And that's just there's no stair step there. So it's not affordable for families. The teachers are also not making enough money to pay their bills. A lot of teachers are on public benefits themselves, and these are the champions who are responsible for helping to nurture that 90% of brain development for kindergarten. And then family supports, the basics is a national brand that we started here in Chattanooga, the Chattanooga Basics, where it's 5 evidence-based principles that are really easy, like talk, sing, and point, count, group, and compare, but it's something that any adult can do with a child to help grow their brain development. It's wild how much of it, some of it is intuitive, but for a lot of people, it's not intuitive how you interact with a baby who's not talking to you, but actually how important that really is to interact with children. A parent resource hub is another strategy. So in the survey, parents large and wide said they don't know what's available in Hamilton County. And we have service providers who are getting grants and they're offering these services, but then there's parents who don't know that they exist. So those services go unused. And so we need kind of a matchmaking, a central location where any parent can go to know, hey, I think that my child actually has a developmental delay in reading, or I think that my child might be autistic, or I think that they have a speech delay. What do I do? Having one place, or what's the best childcare to go to? Or hey, I can't find a single childcare that has seats. Where should I go? One place that just links to all of the other resources in town for parents, where we can also share things like, hey, be sure that your child's getting enough sleep every night. And again, there are early childhood has no single owner. So some of the strategies, I think we've got 32 strategies. Some of the strategies in the plan are funded. Some of them we are still looking for. Chattanooga 2.0 is the backbone, is still looking for grant funding, working with philanthropy and national funding. We have a lot of people that we talked to at the beginning of this process who want to invest in early childhood. And this plan is giving us the first opportunity to make a coordinated investment in what's really going to make a difference. And so the letter that Mayor Womp co-signed with Mayor Kelly and Superintendent Justin Robertson at the beginning of this plan says that we've had some great initiatives in Hamilton County in the past that focused on early childhood, but they were focusing on one domain at a time. And so what this plan does is try and look at the health aspect and the learning aspect and parent resources and family support so that we can have a coordinated investment in early childhood to try and see real impact. And an important thing that we're going to do in year 1 is a targeted geographic rollout of the strategies. So concentrating most of the strategies in 3 areas that have a high, the CDC has a social vulnerability index. So high SVIs in Orchard Knob, Hardy, and Eastridge. And we chose these 3 zip codes because there are also, because this is a 0 to 8 program, we have Hamilton County Schools, either community forward coordinators or community schools there. We have a student success planning, which is already present at those schools. So we have some school-based resources. There are childcare there. And there are community partners who we're already working with that we know will have easier access to implement some of these strategies. But the important thing too, as we roll them out, is making sure that these are strategies that the community wants. So we're not going to come in and say, here are things that we're going to help you with, people who need help. We are going to say, this is the plan that we created based on community feedback, but for your particular zip code, does this resonate? Is this what you want? Is this what you need? So we're working on resource and asset mapping with our UTC partners, and we're doing stakeholder interviews. We're going to identify rollout teams in each zip code and include trusted neighborhood-based leaders. I've heard time and time again that it doesn't need to be me, someone who doesn't look like people who live in a neighborhood. Like I could go into my neighborhood probably, but I have a steering committee who is very blunt that, like, you know, if you are trying to go into a Spanish speaking neighborhood and you don't speak Spanish, then you're not the one to deliver those services and ask parents and families what they need. So that really resonated. And so we're also doing a focus. We're going to talk to families, teachers, providers, and do evaluation and measurement, and then continue to seek strategic funding. And so what I need from Early Matters partners is, if you work in one of these zip codes, please let me know, because we'll be reaching out to you just to talk about best way to go about rolling out some of our strategies that we do have funding for. So I'm gonna pause since I've been talking for a minute and turn it to Katie to maybe transition into some of the work, because some of the strategies in the plan for the Early Childhood Action Plan they're owned by implementation partners. So for example, student success planning is something that Hamilton County Schools is rolling with, and we're championing that because we think it's really going to be key to getting students connected to resources. Nurse Family Partnership, they've got the 4-year grant, they are doing it, we're championing it because that we think is going to make a big difference. But then there are some strategies that Chattanooga 2.0 is going to help lead and direct. So it's just a mix. And so Early Matters is working on some of those strategies specifically as working groups. But I'm going to stop and let Katie, who is the co-chair of Early Matters, speak to anything that I have missed so far before we go into working group update.
Well, you've done an awesome job of giving an overview, I guess. You know, I've been a part of this Early Matters group since, I don't even know, it's been years, and I know Donna and some others have too. And I think one of the great things about this coalition is that we have all been able to come together to know what everyone else is doing and to see where those gaps are. And I think it's taken us a while to really form and figure out what our direction is. But I think that we did a strategic plan as a coalition last year, is that right? And really came up with these different areas of focusing, and the Bright Start plan really came alongside that. And it was kind of cool. I will have to say that we already had Early Matters up and running when TQE thought, oh, let's do this cool thing called Bright Start. And we're like, well, it's basically what we're already doing with Early Matters. And so it was awesome because it brought funding into something we were already doing. So it might be somewhat confusing, but basically Early Matters and Bright Start are really just 2 trains moving alongside each other. And so the Bright Start plan has come in with a lot of really great strategies to help us hit a lot of the strategic goals that we as Early Matters had identified. And 2 of the biggest goals are trying to create this aligned system, because I know Jennifer's mentioned it, but the issue is that we are all trying our hardest to do what we do every day, but we're all doing it separately. There is not a school system that is other than maybe licensing, but even childcare licensing isn't the same. You can be licensed under DHS or you can be licensed under DOE. And so there's just a lot of non-aligned efforts in our world, but I think that Chattanooga and Hamilton County have really set the standard in a lot of ways for the rest of the state on the Bright Start. Those other communities a lot of times are looking to us to see how we've done it. They contact Jennifer and like, how have y'all done that? When the Micro Center thing, that was a statewide network, they all came to us and said, hey, how are you doing this? And all those communities came to Hamilton County to go look at our Micro Center model inside the school. So I think we're doing a lot of things right. We have a long way to go. And I don't want to sound discouraging, but decades of work. But I will say I was at the NAUIC conference in DC a few weeks ago, and y'all, Washington DC itself has done some amazing things with taxation and school, salaries of childcare workers and healthcare for childcare workers, which we haven't talked about today, which is a huge issue. But they've been working on those efforts for over a decade. And so I think sometimes we're like, gosh, why haven't we done more than we have done in the several years we've been working on this? But I think we've really come a lot further than we think we have, to have these plans and to have these working groups that are really looking in these specific areas and digging down to see what the actionable steps are and all of these things. So I guess I didn't really add much other than to say, we really have done a lot, but we do have a lot of work to do. And luckily, there are some places in the nation that are ahead of us, and we can look to them to see how we can figure some things out. But there are a lot of awesome and exciting things in the Bright Start plan that are aligning with things we were already planning to do. And I think it's really neat how, you know, all of us in this room probably have some connection to one of these strategies, and we're all working in our own area, but working together to do what's best for the children in our community. So.
Thank you, Katie. So in the Early Matters strategic plan, there were two things that.
Oh, I started to say this and then I got sidetracked.
No,
so I'm glad you're.
No, you're fine. I'm just further transitioning. There were two things that came out that Early Matters could really do together, no matter what domain people served in. And one was equity focused systems building, continuing to build up this system that's coordinated and aligned. And the other was advocacy, not lobbying, but advocacy for the sake of education and making sure that a state legislator for your region knows what the poverty rate for children is, or the poverty rate in general in your county, because believe it or not, that's something that all legislators don't know. So putting together these data slides, providing this information for leaders so that they can make informed decisions. So what I'm going to do is transition to I'm gonna sit down for a second and transition to our working group updates, but I did want to give Tucker an opportunity to ask any questions about the Bright Start plan specifically. Some of the strategies are going to be a few more are going to be talked about in our 3 working group updates, but I was going to pause. Okay, all right, blazing forward. Caritza, I'm going to switch it over to you.
Yes, yeah, we've got it up there. Let's see your beautiful face. Front and center. I could talk right here, right?
So I'm not gonna go up there. Access to quality childcare. So myself and Tracy Bryan are the co-chairs of the Access Working Group. Here in Early Matters, our why is the Access Working Group exists to increase access to high quality early education for all children county-wide. We work to support quality improvement strategies, increase an understanding of the community of the barriers that families face in accessing care and quality care, and building system capacity to provide that quality care. Highlights for the work that we've done so far is under our current chairmanship is we produced 2 robust briefs in recent years to gather data and have a deeper understanding of what prevents families and caregivers from being able to access high quality care for their children. We also contracted with an external evaluator to conduct a broad local survey of families, caregivers, early educators, and providers, and all other stakeholders to better understand barriers to access and what is keeping them from providing their children with high quality early learning. Current projects are, of course, our baby and the Access Working Group is the Quality Matters Fund. Our first work of Quality Matters was during COVID. Well, right before COVID hit, so we kind of switched gears. But during COVID, we used the funding that we had in Quality Matters, which is the Quality Matters Fund is a collaborative work with the city of Chattanooga, United Way, and other philanthropic supports that have put money into a fund to support early learning. But nevertheless, the initial work was to we use that funding to allow local childcare providers and childcare business owners to apply for grants to help sustain their body of work during COVID, to help keep them in business and for being able to provide the quality of care they were doing during COVID. Our current launch for 2022, we received funding through ARP dollars from the city of Chattanooga. And so we will in turn, this time, take that funding and use it for direct supports to providers and educators to increase high quality in areas where there's low income families or lack of high quality access. And our desire is to focus on centers with families, serving families that are at risk, and to help those educators, the teachers, the substitutes, the assistants that are in that building, matriculate on in the realm of education. If they're already in school, our desired goal, and this hasn't been solidified yet, but our desired goal is to help them be able to do that, whether it's by being able to provide support and funding for substitutes to relieve them to be able to go and do that, whether it may be, okay, I'm this far away and I don't have, I'm a semester out, I don't have the funding, we can provide you this amount to help you get through that. I have my CDA, I'd like to go for an associate, what does it look like to connect them to resources? So that funding will be utilized to support all of that, and the goal is to help to aid in the increased shortages that we see in the realm of early learning providers, educators who are in healthcare. And this slide right here is just a slide to kind of show you what the average salary looks like, which is why we are really excited about Quality Matters Fund and being able to push them to go on to higher levels of education. So if they don't have a CDA, get a CDA, a high school diploma, get a CDA. Got a CDA, get an associate. Got an associate, get a bachelor's. Got a bachelor's, get a master's, and so forth and so on. We know that we may not always, as they progress with anything else in our field, they may not stay there, but we don't know. The passion may be there and they make more with the degree, they make more with the certification, they're gonna stay. So this just shows what they make without benefits, about $21,000. That's literally like $7,000 above poverty line, which puts them, the people that care for our babies, puts them in the realm to not be able to get care for their babies. If they were getting subsidy or support for that. So it's a very thin line and asking someone to step out and do passion work, but then their children and their families are at risk. So we want to work to help ensure they're getting a livable wage, able to do what they like to do. Our children benefit, their children benefit, we all benefit when everybody is having a livable wage and able to have economic mobility in our community, which is the greatest goal with the Quality Matters Fund and what we do in access.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. The only thing they'll add is that with the increase in education, teachers in childcare are eligible for the wages paid stipend. So twice a year, if they stay in their same childcare, they can get money from Tennessee Department of Human Services, a program that was started here in Chattanooga at Signal Centers that the state adopted because it was a great idea for retaining teachers and also for getting them higher pay and also getting them higher education in the process. So
We've now given away, I think it's $4 million in stipends.
which is fantastic.
Statewide.
We've got 154 Hamilton County teachers who are receiving pay stipend through wages, which we've got about 950 childcare teachers in a licensed center, not including family, friend, and neighbor, informal care. And those lost my train of thought.
They must have post-secondary education. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So we want to give them opportunities. Oh, and so the Quality Matters Fund is going to be used to get teachers across Hamilton County to pay that last dollar tuition for them to go on and receive that. So the co-leads of the Early Childhood Health Equity Working Group are Jaleesa Brumfield and Krista McCauley with the Children's Advocacy Center. And they both could not be here. One had fiscal audit. So I said, that's pretty important. You need to keep doing running your business. So I will go over their slides for them today. But the Early Childhood Health Equity Working Group is our newest working group, and they're taking on that health, mental health, and nutrition domain on the back of your paper there. And so as we highlighted the needs assessments for Early Matters in those three domains, gaps analysis, asset mapping. And so Early Matters, this working group met, and I'm excited because we've had 25 different organizations represented on that working group, from mental health providers to nutrition experts to school coordinated health, to pediatricians. We've just got a lot of different experts on that meeting. And so they all agreed that nutrition was the very most important thing to start with in terms of the needs assessment, because it impacts sleep, it impacts education, it impacts mental health. So what they have done as a working group so far is worked with UTC's Department of Nutrition, and done a literature review of all that is out there in terms of, thank you, UTC again, coming in clutch there, with the all nutrition literature that's out there, so that we have what the evidence shows, and we've reviewed all of the data that we have access to. And so now we're going to be working on stakeholder interviews, focus groups, and then the creation, that group is going to come together and write a white paper on nutrition and what the barriers are for families accessing quality nutrition. And now Katie Groudon is going to talk about advocacy and policy committee. Do you want to stand up here?
Not particularly.
Please stand over there.
Thank you. So the advocacy and policy committee, really, our purpose is to educate communities, educate legislators, educate just our state in terms of the importance of that early childhood space. There are a lot of people who don't necessarily understand that those first 5 years are as important as they are. And so we work to make sure that we're educating people, and then also that we are, looking at the pieces of legislation that are introduced and making sure that pieces of legislation that are beneficial to kids are raised up, that we are active around them, that we let people know that these are things that we need. If there are pieces of legislation that are going to be detrimental to children, we make sure that we get grassroots behind that to stop things from passing that are going to be damaging to children. So we have, of course, this group met with candidates for mayor as we were going through the process, just to make sure that our candidates knew what's important for children and families in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. We are building awareness around, legislation that happened last year for pre-K, looking at ways that we can benefit children. And let's see, one of the things that we did, and I didn't get a chance to put it in the slide, but the funding for home visiting that we advocated behind did pass the House. And 7 out of the 9 members of Congress from Tennessee, both of those that represent Chattanooga, did stand behind the legislation. So that was really exciting. And we're going to just continue to lift that up for our senators, because it is their turn now. And just, working on determining what our state policy priorities will be going into next year, so that we are staying in front of the people who make decisions and making sure that they know what our case is.
Thank you. Katie, I'm excited. Our advocacy group has taken a lot of different forms in the past, and so I'm excited about this kind of next leg. In the handout that you all have, there is the breakdown of policy recommendations that we identified after talking to families in the community in the health, learning, and family supports domains. A lot of them are state and national, but some of them don't require funding. Some of them are just better communication. So I'm going to stop there and ask if anybody has any questions at all around anything that we've talked about. Sorry. Tucker, is that all clear as mud? Is that crystal?
Great.
Okay. So we hope as a coalition that you will consider Early Matters a resource for anything that you all are embarking on in terms of early childhood. And I know that Mayor Wonk ran on families and his priority there. So excited to be a resource for you moving forward. And as we continue to create those issue briefs about what's happening and get new data updated about the local scenario, we will let you know. And there's lots of different things we're doing, from strategic public financing to the funding stream analysis to other reports. So excited to update you there. The next thing that we have on our agenda is to go over early childhood system announcements. So
Plan is very closely tied with early matters. And so in all the work that we're doing, even the 2-generation work, we're trying to draw a line back to early matters, if that makes sense. So across all 5 focus areas and buckets that we work on, we see this one as really foundational. So you're gonna see that we're making those ties really explicit, and we'll continue to do that. And I'll just take 1 second to say, the federal delegation is asking questions about healthcare in ways that's new. It's totally tied to workforce and economic development, but there's still a little bit of movement there. And so if we can continue to talk about that and not just talk about quantity, which is actually what they're talking about, but quality, I would encourage us all to do that. There's some interest at that level, and Jennifer and I met with field reps for Blackburn, Haggerty, Fleischman, and they asked a lot of questions about that. So I didn't want to let it go by to say, I don't know if anything will happen, but there's still some conversation at that level. I think that stems from Build Back Better, and there were some pieces in there. So I'll just flag that for everybody while we're having that little conversation too. But excited about the literacy plan. We'll preview it with you all first, or as one of the groups first. It really just says to have all of our kids reading on grade level. It takes all of us. It's not just about the school system, and it begins early, right? And that's going to resonate with all of you, but really targeting some strategies there to make that happen.
thank you. I'm going to turn it to our online friends next, actually. Does anybody have any celebrations or announcements for the good of the group? You can just come off mute if you do. If you don't, it's okay.
For those of you who are directly supporting staff or indirectly supporting staff, early childhood educators, we have a great new semester starting up in January at Chat State. We have a full slate of CDA prep classes and technical certificate classes and associate degree classes, and we would love to still help your staff get started. As of right now, nothing is full, so we can do all the things.
Thank you, Tanya. Anyone else online have anything to share? Okay, okay, let's just, here, let's go front row. Anything to share on front row?
I will just say, I don't know every single race in Tennessee, forgive me for that. But if you have a new legislator, now is a really good time to welcome them, congratulate them on their win, start to build a relationship so that they can look to your organization and to Early Matters as a resource for them as they're moving forward.
Thank you, great flag. Becky, Donna?
I spent the morning negotiating our workforce grant.
Yeah.
We have we've got a $4 million TANF grant to train early childhood educators and pay them. We're going to be working with Chat State as well as local childcare providers to give them paid internships while they're doing post-secondary education. So we'll make that still be on the wages scale. So, yeah, they say it'll start in January. I don't believe that. But February. I think we're good for February. And we're going to post. We're post positions. I think there are 16 positions that we work with this grant. Everything from job placement to workforce learning placement, to field supervision, to case management, because all of the participants must be TANF eligible. So this is a career path for folks who are low income, and we think this is great. And they all have minor children living in their home, so they understand that. We're excited about it. So if you have any, if you serve those populations, you have folks that are interested in childcare, send them our way.
Fantastic. Becky?
We have 6 school days.
Fantastic. Lee? I do. Go.
So I don't know, I guess everybody knows that we have a partnership with Hamilton County where we offer all students a free library card from grades K through 12. Well, she knows that on day 2 of that program, I was like, what about the pre-K kids? What about the pre-K kids? So it's only taken 7 years. So free cards for the pre-K kids. So I'm giving it about a week and I'm gonna start saying, what about the other kids?
That's right.
Thank you.
Anyone else on that row? No? Sean, Carrie, Katie?
I just want to say, this isn't actually early childhood related, but it's child welfare and well-being related, and most of y'all have heard me agonizing over this. We have actually broken ground on the Isaiah. Don't know what the Isaiah House is. It's a house for children to come the minute they're removed from their home. So I switched my early childhood hat over to my child welfare hat. So Department of Children's Services does a removal of a child. Right now, those children go to the DCS office at Eastgate and they sit in cubicles and they sleep on dirty carpet because there's no place for those kids to go. So I won't get on my soapbox too much about that. But basically we got hung up a lot in permitting, but the permit went through. There's dug footers and poured concrete and we have stuff happening. We have temporary power and a porta potty. So
That's great, yes.
Hey, don't forget your fundraiser yesterday.
yes, we had an amazing, thank you. I forgot, we just had that. I go day by day. Tuesday, we had an amazing Isaiah House fundraiser where the founder of Isaiah House came down and spoke at the luncheon. She's amazing. She will cry every time you hear her. And between the 2 events, we raised about $87,000.
Wow.
Not a dry eye in that.
No, she's amazing. Dr. Drew, there too. Oh, good. That's right. I saw them.
The Dr. Howard, Jennifer, Aaron?
Well, tonight is free night. If you know anyone who wants to come see the museum, if you have not been yet, we're doing renovations. So our upper floor, we've got STEM zone, most of it is in addition to our make it, we have some engineering called, build test and then retest and all that. So we've got some cars and catapults and rockets for that. We have robotics sections. We have some new things. And then in our art space, we have some new performing arts sort of exhibits. We also have some cultural rooms, Guatemalan and Appalachian. So if you haven't been in a while, check it out. If you want a free ticket, contact me. And just to give you a heads up, we will be having our traveling exhibit of Dockins Stuckins is coming in January and it will be throughout the spring. And then our traveling exhibit this weekend on Saturday from 10 to noon will be full of preschool adventure activities. So if you have any families who want to come, let them know that we'll have special activities with our Udawa junior ROTC students facilitating them from 10 to noon, and just part of the mission that day. And then if you love the dig pit, it will be closing in January, and hopefully next time I will give you an opening date for our new early childhood space, ages 5 and under. So we're kind of in the nitty-gritty details of getting that done and hopefully be installed early next year. But I don't want to see any dates now. Things
I would just like to second, it is a fantastic renovation. I just went in the spring with my kids and we just went back. I went back last week to talk to Claire and Aaron, and it is jaw-droppingly cool, the things that they have done. There, you can build your own fish fly, and there's just really cool stuff. I think if I ever take my husband back, I'll never be able to get he and my son out of that. So I highly recommend going.
That's great.
Anyone else have anything they want to share for the good of the group? Okay, fantastic. Online friends, anything to share? The next Early Matters meeting, of the bi-monthly coalition meeting is gonna be February 9th. We're gonna have some Valentine's Day cookies since we didn't do tacky sweaters today. And there is a list in the rolling agenda of all of our next working group meetings. Next week, the Early Childhood Health Equity Working Group is gonna meet to work on that nutrition needs assessment, access to quality childcare, policy advocacy, and family-friendly business event planning will all be in January. So if I don't talk to you, I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe. Good luck on the countdown to the last day of pre-K through 12 school, and good luck to all of you all who are still working in childcare through the holidays, and we'll see you in February.
Very early.